moderators for the evening, and to kick off the program, here is the managing editor of the Salinas, California University.
Can you hear me? Okay, there we go. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for attending. It's good to see the response to our challenge, that you get out and meet the candidates, so you know what they say, what they promise. I'm glad that you've accepted that challenge and are here today. I'd like to also very start to thank Dr. Eduardo Ochoa from CSU&B for the use of this lovely facility. And we're ready to start. It's my pleasure to introduce to you our president publisher of the California Media Group, Paula Goudreau.
Very short. I just want to thank everyone for being here, and I was also told to make sure everyone knows that there are translation services if needed. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jeff Mitchell. He is our political reporter for the Californian, and it is his fourth year of doing this, and he really does a great job, and I think it's a great service to the community. So without further ado, Jeff Mitchell.
Well, good evening, everyone. I hope we're going to have a fun night. One of the things I'm very proud to do right now is to welcome you to COSMD at Salinas City Center. And it is a great, we have a great new room. They've remodeled it, and even the chairs you're sitting in are brand new. And so we thank the university. And specifically what I'd like to do is bring up Dr. Eduardo Ochoa, the president of CSMB, for a few words. Dr. Ochoa?
Well, good evening. And after that great build-up, my remarks are going to be almost redundant. I'm very pleased to on behalf of CSUMB, to host this event here at CSUMB at Salinas City Center, which is the name we're giving the building. The National Steinbeck Center is an organization, a 501c3, that continues to operate on the other half of our facility and manages the Steinbeck Museum. This purchase of this building for us is an important part of our increased community outreach to the city of Salinas and the Salinas Valley generally. There will be more opportunities for students both here and at CSUMB at North Salinas, which is the former Hill College facility, which is actually really ready to go as a site for classroom instruction, and we'll be starting up on that around June. In June 8, we will also be hosting the next event in the President's Speaker Series here at CSUMB at Salinas City Center. And the subject for the June 8th session will be transportation. Several experts on transportation issues. So look for more information in the coming weeks. Yes. And this time of year, we hear a lot about the importance of registering and voting. There is a third element that's just as important, and that's becoming informed about the candidates and the issues. Decisions made by the Board of Supervisors have a direct impact on the quality of life for all of us here in Monterey County. So I want to thank you all for coming out to learn more about how these candidates stand on the important issues facing our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Okay, so I have a whole list of stuff we're going to do tonight, so we will get right into it. I think the first thing I'd like to do is introduce you to our panel of reporters who will be doing the bulk of the question asking this evening. And starting off on my right, Chelsea Adamy. Let's give her a hand. She's from California. Sarah Rubin from the Monterey County Weekly. Jim Johnson from the Monterey County Herald. Susanna Vasquez from El Sol. And Adriana Frederick from Univision. We do really appreciate them taking the time out of their busy days to help us with this. And I'd like to also have, if I could, Susanna, if you'd, I'm throwing you a curveball already, but if you could introduce Luis Alejo and let folks know what, how they can get translation services.
Para todas las personas que hablan español, tenemos acá a Luis Alejo. Él va a estar haciendo la interpretación. Pueden venir y traer los audífonos.
Great, thank you. Okay, so before I introduce the candidates for tonight, District 1, I'd also like to introduce a friend of mine and a colleague and just an all-around good guy, Joe Truscott, and he will be serving as our official timekeeper tonight. Joe? Green means go, red means you're done. So actually the thing is those are the colors. So the candidates are warned ahead of time that if you see the yellow, you've got 15 seconds to finish your thought or else. Actually, I'll cut you off. So we're going to get real serious about the timing because at the end of the night, we don't want to be here at 11 o'clock and still going through our questions. So I'm sure everyone can appreciate that. So without further ado, what I'd like to do is have, Joe's got a very important job right now. I'm sorry, I almost forgot about it. The candidates, let me have the candidates come up to the stage, and then Joe's going to have a hat passed around to determine the speaking order. So if I could have the Assemblyman, Luis Alejo, City Councilman Barrera, and our incumbent tonight, Fernando Armenta. Okay. Joe's the independent. So guys, what you're going to do is you're going to be picking a tab out of the hat for speaking order. So everything is completely fair, or we try to be. Yeah, well actually let's get what they have. Yeah, so what do you got, guys?
Okay, opening speech first.
Fernando is number 1. Okay. Okay?
Second speech.
Second? Okay.
That order.
Okay. And then Tony's third. Okay, now we're going to be doing the same thing for the 1-minute closing speech. So guys, we'll have you pick another one. So. First speaker. Okay. Number 1. Who's number 2?
Mine states the first speaker, not second speaker.
Second. Okay. Okay. And Tony, you're 3. Okay. Okay. So again, watch Joe. Joe will give you the initial green, and you've got all the responses to the bulk of the questions, guys, are going to be 1-minute responses. However, right now, what we're going to have you do is a 2-minute opening speech. And Fernando Armenta, you are up first, sir.
Buenas tardes, good afternoon. Is this thing on? So I want to thank everybody for being here. Senator Luis Alejo and Tony, everybody. Fernando Armenta, I've been on the Board of Supervisors almost 16 years. I was born and raised here in Salinas. I'm a Vietnam veteran. And I want to continue the same record that I've had for the last 15 years. I've been walking almost 80 days straight now. And the voters and residents are telling me that age doesn't matter, experience is what matters. They want me to continue on, so I'm ready to continue another 4 years to continue to fight for healthcare, transportation, transit, farm workers, the homelessness, students, and in 3 months, we're going to have the Veterans Homeless Stand Down. I led the charge. I shared a bunch of committees with the board. I did the charge to get $150,000. And before I close, I want to introduce my wife, Luis Armenta. We've been together for 39 years, and she happens to be president.
Okay, great, thank you. So next up will be Assembly Member Luis Alejo. I think we don't have our mics up yet on this. Technical difficulties, stand by. Yeah, there's, this one's working, so. Yeah. Okay. That would be good. Okay. Sorry guys, stuff happens when you're going live. So we'll have a mic for them in just a second. So we want to have you hear everything they have to say. So hang on just a second. While I'm here, I'd like to thank Power Talk, Mark's radio station, for joining us and helping us tonight. And we can give them a round of applause if we could. I'd also like to thank our friends at the Monterey County Weekly and the Monterey County Herald. Can we give them a round? And of course, this is being brought to you by the California Media Group, which puts out Off 68, the Californian, and a whole bunch of cool stuff every week. So we're getting a microphone quickly. So. Yeah, I was going to say, maybe a little.
We can always pass that one around.
Yeah.
That would have been my suggestion. Yep.
Okay, so we're going to have you guys share, and in the meantime, we'll have the house staff take a look at these mics and see if we can get them back up online, see if you each have an individual mic.
What time is it?
Okay, so Luis, you're up for a 2-minute opening. Does it work? Tell me it works. Okay.
There we go.
There we go. Sorry for the delay, guys.
Thank you very much, everybody. Hello, good evening. I'm your State Assembly Member Luis Alejo. First of all, I want to thank CSC Monterey, Dr. Cho, and certainly the State of California and all of our local media for putting this together. But before I start, I want to really acknowledge my lovely wife, Salinas Alejo, my mother, my stepdad, and a lot of young people here from Salinas that have been working very hard on our campaign. Thank you very much. Everyone, I've been your State Assembly Member for the last 6 years. I've proven to be an effective problem solver up in Sacramento. Out of 120 legislators last year in Sacramento, I had the most bills sent to Governor Brown and that were signed into law, almost 3 times more than the average legislator. In 2013, I offered some landmark legislation to help our local families in District 1 throughout Salinas and throughout California. The law to allow immigrants to obtain a lawful driver's license, the law to raise the minimum wage to the highest level in the nation. And now I want to come back to local government to continue solving problems and moving Salinas in the right direction. But my story is not unique. My story is the story of so many families that came to the Salinas Valley to work in agriculture from all backgrounds, from all ethnicities. My grandparents were bracero workers in the 1950s that worked in agriculture. They would migrate from the Salinas Valley to the Pajaro Valley, to the Santa Clara, and to the Central Valleys. But my grandfather only went to the 3rd grade. My grandmother never had a chance to school, but because of their sacrifice, 2 generations later, I was able to graduate with honors from UC Berkeley, obtain my master's from Harvard University, and my law degree from UC Davis School of Law. But what they told me was to not forget where you came from and help those who are also trying to realize their dreams and aspirations. So I came back as a young lawyer to work for California Rural Legal Assistance and later for the Monterey County Superior Court. Now I'm running for county supervisor because we need a new direction. The poverty rate, the homelessness rate, and the record homicide rate merit having a change in the District 1 supervisor rates, and that's why I'm asking for your support tonight.
Okay. Tony, Councilman Tony Barrera, for 2 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Tony Barrera. I've been your council member here in the city of Salinas for 8 years now. One of the things that when I came as a council member, I found out about how territorial council members could be because there were 6 districts. The first project that we worked on was in District 1. I'm representing District 2, but District 1 had a very dangerous easement for over 35 years behind LSL High School. We were able to get business, we were able to get the high school district together, and we built a $200,000 brand new easement where children, young people could really be proud. As a matter of fact, several parents would use that as a shortcut to take their children to Cesar Chavez Elementary School. They were able to put surveillance cameras. The other thing is, not too long ago, the young people in Acosta Plaza were just creating a basketball park, and they went into a snag. There was a $40,000 project that, because it was contaminated dirt. Right the next day, I heard it from Robledo. One morning, I saw it in the Californian. Right the next day, I called a business company, I called the city manager, and I called Alfred Diaz-Infante with Chispa. Within 4 days, that contaminated dirt was gone. The park is built today, not because of me, but because of the young people in Acosta Plaza. The other thing that we were working on, next month, there's going to be a senior center open at the Firehouse Recreation Center. Again, not because of me, but because of 75 senior citizens that have been wanting their own place where they can go and fellowship and enjoy themselves. Not only is it going to be a senior center, it's also going to be a teen lounge for the after-school projects that's going to serve our young people. One of the things that we have been busy here is creating community. Councilmember McShane, which is in the South District, I'm in the East District, we have collaborated where neighborhoods throughout, even Councilmember Roy de la Rosa, right now there's 3 neighborhood meetings going on, not because of the work of one individual, but the work of a community. Thank you.
Okay. Well, this is a little embarrassing. We found out that we needed to actually turn the mics on. So our friend here is doing just that, and hopefully these gentlemen will have their own working microphones in a minute. So yeah, that whole on button thing, you know, who knew about it? So it's like, you don't want us flying your next airliner, believe me. Okay, is everyone's mic working? Okay, good. All right, so we're ready to get into the meat of this thing. Again, we're going to have our question panel, starting with Chelsea Adamy. Start off with the first question, and we will go in rotation, down, up, and down, and back. And Chelsea, what do you got for us?
Can you hear me okay? Being the way that violence has affected generations of people in Salinas and continues to be a huge issue with, the record-breaking 40 homicides last year, what do you think hasn't yet been done to address the issue, and why hasn't that been addressed?
The question will go to Fernando first.
Well, I've been going back to Washington, D.C. as a council member and as a supervisor for 25 years. As a team, bringing in millions of dollars from the federal government, from the cops, the Department of Justice, the prevention. We got to have more programs. We got to work directly. I was at CAS, Community Land Safety and Peace this morning. I'm co-chair. What I told some folks coming in from Long Beach, they said, how do you build police-community relationships? Now, the first thing I said, we got to talk to the fellas. We got to talk to the ladies on the street. We can't just listen to professionals and politicians to solve the problem. That's not where the solution is. We got to talk to the people that have the cancer of gangs in themselves. We got to learn how to work with them to find a cure. And the only way we're going to be able to lead and get out of this mess that we've been in for the last 50 years. People continue to fail to talk and to empower and to have those fellas and ladies lead us out of bondage. Thank you.
Well, everyone, when I was 19 years old, what drove me into community involvement and civic activism was the tragic death of a 9-year-old little girl, Jessica Cortez, and her 16-year-old brother in Pájaro. Both of them were shot on the way to the bakery store, and the mom sent them to buy some Mexican bread. Ever since then, I've been working with mothers and fathers and family members who have lost their loved ones, from as young as 3 years old to fathers who were tragically lost their lives to senseless violence. I've dedicated my career to that, so I know what it feels like. I've had my own family members who were victims to domestic violence, so I know what it feels like. But that's what drove me to do into public service. I could have done a lot of things with my career, but I wanted to come back and fight for a better future for our young people in our local communities. And one of the most effective ways that we can fight crime is in those words of Father Gregory Boyle, who said, "Nothing stops a bullet like a job." Salinas is one of the most economically disadvantaged communities in the state. It had the highest rent increase out of any city in California last year. And we haven't done enough to make things better. The prices of housing is so high that it's one of the greatest contributors to poverty here in Salinas. And so when I look at what can be done in Salinas, there's many things that could be done that other cities and counties have implemented that we haven't done. Some model work is happening in Richmond, California, that also had a record homicide rate. They dropped their homicides down. Our neighboring county to the north implemented an alternative to detentions policy so that we're dropping the number of incarcerated youth so they're not going in and out of the prison over and over again. But we also have to invest in our neighborhoods. You all heard the report by the U.S. Department of Justice that gave 120 recommendations of how our local police department could build better bridges, better relationships with our local neighborhoods, so that when there is a crime, our citizens are trained, they have trust to report those crimes and provide information to the police department. So when I look, what can be done, there's many things that could be done. I want to be your champion and making our neighborhoods safer here in Salinas.
Okay.
You know, about 4 years ago, there was a young child, 6-year-old Asael Cruz, was killed inside his house.
Yeah.
What?
Fix it. Start over. There you go.
Thank you. Asael Cruz, a child that should be here with us today. I spoke to the mother right the next day. I went to her house. And she said that when she looked at the person, his last name is Pulido, he's doing life in prison right now. And there was another young man, Camacho, 3 families devastated. But the mom, when she said, when I held my son trying to stop the bleeding, the guy looked at him with the gun and he threatened her, threatened the mother as her little boy is dying. You know, that's the reality. You think a politician or several of us are going to, peace marches or all that's going to solve it? No. What's going to solve it is us retraining little children, just like a lot of programs are doing with the dancing clubs. Look at all these young people that are here today. These are citizens that are going to be productive in our community. Mom and dad need to be active. You know, the hardest thing, as I was visiting different homes, I noticed that a lot of times fathers are missing. Well, twice a month I go to the Monterey County Jail, and I do a class, and I speak to incarcerated fathers. And one of the things that these incarcerated fathers have in common, that they've all lost the ability of responsibility as a parent. As a matter of fact, when they get out of jail, they become the oldest son of the wife. You understand what I'm saying here? Because they don't have any logic of how to train a child because they weren't trained themselves. And one of the things that happens today with this problem of crime, 2 days ago there was a 16-year-old that was killed. And at the same time that they killed this young man, there was 90 students at Alisal High School telling the audience what universities they were going to go to. It's a vicious cycle. Thank you.
Okay. So moving down the question panel, I believe our next questioner is Sarah Rubin from the Monterey County Weekly.
In some of the remarks that you just gave, you spoke a little bit about the skyrocketing cost of housing in this county, in this district in particular. That's something that's happening all across Monterey County and the state. What would you do as a supervisor to ensure that there's an adequate supply of affordable housing? And what has the current board done well? What should they have done better?
Take the question. There's a housing crisis not only in Salinas, but it's all over the state of California, and it's contributing to a record homelessness rate in our own community and throughout the state. I always like to say that if you look out for the least among us, the poorest, the homeless, in our communities, we lift everyone up. It's not enough to pass a draconian ordinance and sweep poor people out and have them go somewhere else in the city and then chase them out of there. The real solution is trying to plan and build more affordable housing within our community. For 3 years now, I worked with the California League of Cities to pass a new form of redevelopment that allows cities, just like Salinas and Wattsville and Greenfield and Soledad, to be able to create more local taxes to attract jobs, clean up blighted areas, but 25% will be set aside to build affordable housing. I've also been a big champion for farm worker housing. We're currently talking with the governor and the legislature to introduce actually a $1.3 billion package to provide housing so we can build more rental units, because we need all types of housing stock. We need more housing for our farm worker community. But we also need to help our families move up into the middle class by being able to put down a down payment and be able to realize that American dream of owning a home. I know that when my father came back from serving during Vietnam, it was the GI program that gave my father that ability to get a loan and buy our first home, and that improved dramatically our lives. But we have to do the same for so many other families here in Salinas. It's critical, and like I said earlier, some families are paying over 50%, sometimes 60% of their income, just paying rent or paying their mortgage. That drives people into poverty, and it hurts the entire family, not just the parents. So I look forward to working on those policies, working with the state and our federal dollars to try to zone some areas here in Salinas to deal with housing. And lastly, in Chinatown, I'm working currently with PG&E and Chevron to actually obtain and have them dedicate 2 large parcels of land so that we can build housing. So now the question is, do we have land? We will have the land, it will be zoned, and with the state and federal funds, we can actually build housing for the poor in our community.
Okay, thank you. All right. Same question, and Fernando, why don't you take it?
You know, we could have all the affordable housing in the world, but especially all the ones that have been built specifically in East Salinas and District 1, they're all high density. They don't have neighborhood service centers in these large apartment complexes. I think it's crucial that we are able to empower them to get the kind of services that they need, and also to include transportation and transit. The biggest, folks, is that we haven't learned yet, and I take some responsibility, but all my district is in the city of Salinas. I sat on the city council for 9.5 years, and it was hard to get people out of garages. They have to live somewhere. My priority, if elected in the next 4 years, is the first priority is to get people out of garages and to be able to take care of the homeless folks, specifically the veterans. And another thing that's critical is the current stock of farm labor housing. Look at what we did in collaboration with the state, the federal government, the nonprofits, in terms of things outside of District 1. We gotta, when we can't do things in District 1, we gotta have model programs like the one we did at Campora. When San Hidalgo didn't have any water, I got a call from Assembly Member then, Simon Salinas, and he said, we're gonna send you the people from San Argo. I led the charge. They have the state-of-the-art water system in San Argo, after I saw what was going on down there. Another thing that occurs up in Pájaro, I led the charge to get 112 lights in the area, Las Lomas, not Pájaro, I apologize, $800,000 plus another $1 million to take care of the water situation in flooding.
Okay, thanks. Tony?
You know, there's 2,000 families right now on the waiting list for the Monterey County Housing Authority. 2,000 families. Just recently, with the Monterey County Housing Authority, the state funds grants, the partnerships that we built, Hacienda 1, 2, and 3, 317 low-income houses. Brand new, beautiful place where children have a small backyard where they can play. One of the things that we're doing right now through the partnership with Dorothy's Place, as a matter of fact, those of you that are familiar with Dorothy's Place, it's now Monterey County Dorothy's Place, and they are building 12 rooms on Jefferson Street, which is in District 1 right now as we're speaking, for people that have problems not only with addictive behaviors, but people that just need a place where they can once again regain their thoughts and be able to get out into the workforce. You know, one of the things that's happening right now, there's a lot of exciting things happening. Treatments, I know some people say that we got rid of a lot of homeless people. Well, we didn't get rid of a lot of homeless people. A lot of those homeless people, they have first and last names. I know several of them. And you know what? They have family members here in town. But the thing is, a lot of times, a sister, a brother, a father, or a son do not want them there anymore because they've tried and because of their addictions. They need treatment. They don't need an apartment or a studio. They don't know what to do with it. They need a place like Sun Street. They need a place like Janet's house. They need a place like Intrum. A place where they can get recovery and then be able to get on their own. You know, partnerships today is critical. Look what CSUMB did with this building here. With the city of Salinas, now there's a lot of young people that are going to have accessibility to even higher education. Did the politicians do it? No. We didn't do that. But there are professionals throughout that are building our community, our Monterey County, that is going to lift up even District 1 here.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Jim Johnson from the Herald.
You've all touched on the issue of homelessness in context of the availability of affordable housing and what could be done to improve the access to that. Why do you believe that the numbers of homeless people are growing in Salinas, have grown? How do you feel about the city's handling of that issue, particularly in Chinatown and other areas in the city? And how can the city and the county better collaborate on a solution to homelessness?
Tony, why don't we start with you? Well, you know, it's called structure. A lot of folks cannot handle structure for different reasons. Victory Mission just last night, what they were doing is they were charging $2 a night, which for some people is a lot of money. They stopped charging the $2. What they do now is they're serving breakfast and they're serving dinner because they want to attract more men that they can be able to help. Interim housing. We have a lot of housing for mentally ill folks. And it's a challenge because sometimes they leave their homes because they're going through their own battles of mental illness. Drug addiction. Did you know that 75% of all our incarcerated population in Salinas County Jail and the juvenile hall, they are addicted either to meth or they're addicted to some other form of drug. Those are serious issues. Right now, more than ever, just on this housing issue. There's a lot of folks that are homeless right now, but they have relatives throughout Salinas. And I think that the reason they're drawing to Salinas, because let's face it, we've been having a difficult time and we've grown lax. We have not really structured it the way we should. But look what's happening now. Dorothy's place is getting involved. I think 40 nonprofits are meeting once a month that they can be able to assist anybody that wants help. But that's the key right there. We just closed the warming shelter that was there for 60 people. We could never get more than 40 people there. Why? Because a lot of people say, well, I can't drink, I can't do anything, I can't do that. Well, if you already know, we're all governed by structure, some structure of some kind. But I think the addictive behavior, some people, if they want the treatment, I think mom and dad will welcome back in the home. There's a lot of adult children that want their dad back home, but there's addictive behavior.
Okay. Luis?
Thank you for the question. It's a very good one, a very compelling one that's on the minds of a lot of residents of District 1. As I go door to door, this is one of the issues that people are very concerned about. Because I think many of us, when we grew up, we used to pray at the table before dinner. The common saying was, we always pray for the less fortunate, those that don't have food, those that don't have shelter. That's what we grew up with, those kind of values. Not sweep them away out of Chinatown, not do anything for them for 16 years. We can do better here in Salinas. We can be more compassionate, more understanding, and take care of our most vulnerable residents in our community. My colleague in the City Council only passed the draconian ordinance, and now the city, it's not even reported yet, are trying to get Caltrans to sweep the poor out of the bridges and near Highway 101 and Main Street. That's wrong. That's really wrong. And again, nothing has been done by the supervisor in 16 years, even though Chinatown is in District 1. What can we do better? Certainly, Salinas is the largest city in the Monterey Bay. It doesn't have a year-round shelter at all. The city of Salinas opened one just for 3 months, and that was only 2 years ago. 3 months and almost 58 people, and there's hundreds of homeless here in our city. We should have a year-round shelter. We should have year-round shelter for women and children, like other cities do in our region, because they have different needs. We've got to protect those kids, and the women have transitional housing for them. But in Chinatown, for example, people ask, what can we do? In the short term, we should have allowed an organized encampment that gives people a lawful place to stay. And if we're truly committed about getting them into housing and get them to mental health and social services, then we could transition them from there. We know where they're at. The services are there in Chinatown. Dorothy's Place, Mission Victory, CSU Monterey Bay. All the people serving the poor and homeless are right there. But now they've kicked them all out. We don't even have a campaign to identify and house every homeless veteran. There's a lot of federal funds to do that right now. We haven't even declared that either. So when I look at what can be done, there's a lot of possibilities, some that are very cost efficient. I could be done better.
Fernando? Yeah. So I was waiting for Assembly Member Luis Alejo to bash me, to disrespect this community, to disrespect this district. Okay? He's out of touch. He's out of town. What is it? Why doesn't he talk about what he did or didn't do for the homeless in Watsonville? Why does he talk about what he did or didn't do since he's been in Sacramento? He's talking about a Robin Hood approach. That's not going to work with any solution or problem with the homeless. Okay? He's out of touch. And I want to thank the homeless people for taking charge. I made the charge $150,000 for the homeless stand down. Okay, folks? A lot of you folks are not familiar with a lot of homeless assistance by the VA program. Okay? If we're going to work together, if we're going to be peaceful together, no matter who wins this election, on January 8th or in November, are we going to stand united? Instead of pointing fingers and bashing the holy shit out of each other. This is not the way to live, Salinas. That's Latinos, that's not what we're about. Okay? So let's figure out how we can work and get along together. All right, folks? Thank you very much.
Mitchell, if you don't mind if I might intercede for just a moment, I'd ask the candidates, when they're on the microphone, to have the mic 2 to 3 inches from their mouth and cut down on the feedback.
A little distance, yeah.
Yeah, well, they're holding the mic too low, so if they have it 2 to 3 inches from their mic, it'll be better sounding. And then also, I'd like to caution the candidates, please don't use any four-letter words because we're not allowed to broadcast those on the radio.
Yeah, the FCC will take advantage of that.
Right.
Actually, more to the point, if we could just, I realize some of the candidates are going to say things that are going to get you worked up, but I'm asking you to be quiet and listen to them. This is what this is for, and we're going to now go to Susana Vasquez, the editor of El Sol.
There's a lot of young people from Salinas that are graduating from college, but they are not coming back because they are not finding employment. What do you think needs to be done in order to not only attract them, but keep them in the community?
Fernando.
I think what I've done in 15 years is, one example, is to have a county general plan that makes it easier to cut the red tape in terms of agriculture, in terms of working with the school district, in terms of building new schools. That's critical, that's very important, okay? And we've got to be able to work in collaboration with the elementary, high school, the colleges, the universities in the area. That is very key. They got to be at the table. The students and parents have to be at the table to let us know what is missing, okay? And we got to do more in terms of advocating for more state and federal dollars for job training, support services. All that's very clear. Thank you very much.
Okay, Luis?
Just to respond to the previous question, City of Watsonville has a year-round shelter. It has a year-round women's shelter for children. And I stood up with the poor and homeless when they were sweeping them, asking the city not to do that. When it mattered, I didn't look away. I wasn't absent. I stood up for my constituents here in Salinas, the least among us. That's what I did. But when we talk about our young people, I've also put that to practice. As a legislator, I'm one of the few in the state that created a Young Assembly Members program. Because I never forgot the young people who helped me when I won my election, when nobody thought I had a chance in 2010. So we've been mentoring and we've been working with young people from this community and from surrounding communities. They've gone to places like UCLA, they've gone to places like UC Berkeley, some are now in law school, and guess what? They're inspired to come back. You know why? Because there's nobody better in this community to solve the problems, lead this community, than the young people who were born here. Their hearts are here, their families are here, but guess what? If we equip them with a college education, encourage them to make the networks and get their experience, and then give them a reason to come back, to be the leaders of tomorrow in Salinas, that's a true solving of the problems here in our community. I've done that in practice, and it's probably been one of the greatest things that I've achieved in the legislature. I've got a lot of landmark bills signed into law by Governor Jerry Brown. But if you ever hear me talk, I always say some of the greatest achievements during my 6 years is being involved in the lives of some of these young people who have gone and done great things, just given the opportunity. They have gone and able to show their community that they can achieve that, and they've been able to inspire their siblings and their cousins and their family members. Many who were the first to graduate from high school, and now the first to graduate from high school and graduate from professional school. So that's what I take pride in. Is in those amazing stories of the young people of this community. I want to keep doing that as a supervisor.
You know, just right across the street, there's 300 people that work in agriculture. They're not only in agriculture, but now it's ag tech. One of the things, the phenomenal things that's happening, they're bringing in a lot of our young people, all 6 of the high schools, even Toro High School, where young people are getting training, first-hand knowledge of how not, if they're not interested in the agriculture part, they're going to be interested in the ag part, how they're going to be able to, the technology, how they're going to be able to help. And you know, one of the phenomenal things in Salinas, especially District 1, in the last 3 years, we've had 160 young people going to visit different universities throughout this great country. Not because of the politicians, but because of dedicated teachers that have really taken a role, a step up on how they are going to help these young people. And what do we do as electeds? We are there to provide the resources, the things that we need. You know, one of the things that happened here, this building where you're at, as the city was negotiating with CSUMB, which our city manager, our city attorney, and our top administrative officers were dealing with Dr. Ochoa, a lot of people were totally against certain things that we were doing. What do you mean you're going to get rid of the Steinbeck Museum? John Steinbeck. Well, thanks to CSUMB, to our partners here, they're going to be able to create their own John Steinbeck Museum within this university, whatever the plans are. But I think more than anything else, there's enthusiasm. You know what? When I was a kid, a lot of people, I grew up going to school and at the same time on the weekends working out in the fields to help my mom and dad. But you know what's happening now with little children in middle school? They're saying, I'm going to go to a university. Something that you never heard before. Why? Because there's enthusiasm within our professionals.
So wrap it up. Cool. Okay, next up is Adriana Barrera from the Music Zone.
Okay, what is your opinion about ICE officers being inside Monterey County Jail expediting the deportation of inmates? And what do you think needs to be done to have better relations between the Latino community and law enforcement? There's lack of trust, and that's the reason that they don't report the crimes. So you as a supervisor, what needs to be done?
Luis, why don't we start with you?
A very good question. As many know, I was a principal co-author of the California Trust Act. Because prior to the fee policy, what was happening is that they were putting immigration holds on immigrants in a lot of different situations in our county jails like the state of California. The legislation, the governor agreed that if you didn't commit a crime at all, or if you commit a minor crime, that should not be a deportable reason to deport you and separate you from your families. So I was proud to be a principal co-author of that. And the reason why is that the evidence was very glaring, is that 70, sometimes 8 to 85% of those that were being deported under the Secure Communities Federal Program were people who never committed, were never charged with a crime, or it was a minor offense, such as driving without a driver's license. That's not a reason to be separated from your kids. But what is happening now in the Monterey County Jail and other jails throughout the state is that now, as they release inmates, now the ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, has an everyday presence, Monday through Friday, sometimes weekends, that as people are released, then they immediately put them on hold and they're being deported. So currently we're working on some legislation to deal with that also. Because we don't think that people commit no crimes or minor crimes shouldn't be deported. I never defend people who commit felonies or egregious crimes. There's consequences to be paid when you do that. So I've always been very clear on this policy. That's not what we're talking about. But we are talking about mothers and fathers when they've committed a minor crime, that they should not be separated from their kids, because that has a devastating effect on our local families. Building trust with police, law enforcement, and our communities, that's very real. And I think that's part of the problem, that when people see crimes occur right in front of them, as they did just in 2014 when they shot a 23-year-old farmer in front of his house by some gangster. Nobody wanted to give any details. That's wrong. And then they attacked the police officers trying to give him CPR. But that reminded us, it's a duty among all of us. It's obvious. We've got to create better neighborhood relationships between our neighborhood leaders, and our law enforcement leaders as well. There's a lot of good examples that anyone else what we could do here in Salinas.
All right, we're not done. Fernando, you're up now.
When this came up with ISIS, the first thing I thought of is county supervisor have any direct jurisdiction over immigration service, and we don't. It's unfortunate, but I also believe that we need to protect our community. But I also believe very strongly that we got to be able to, no matter what level we are, whether you're elected or not, and advocates, we got to make sure that we organize and train our folks, whether you're legal in this country or not, in terms of your rights. We got to do more of that. Enough of that's not done, and be supportive of those kind of initiatives and efforts when they come up, whether they're local initiatives, whether it's an organizing effort. But in terms of police and law enforcement, no disrespect, I know that we missed most of the boat. We've got a lot to learn, and a lot where we learned, like I said earlier, is to talk about the students, the parents, the community. We got to talk with them in terms of specific situations. All I know is that if I was to, it's been with other departments, but not the county law enforcement departments, like the jail, supposedly. But in terms of the lawsuit that we just settled regarding how inmates get treated at the jail, we settled in the process. We're paying for that lawsuit. And I always say, no matter what you're in jail for, you got to be able to take care of those folks in terms of how they get treated, how they get health care, how they get services, and how they get isolated. To me, that's very critical. We've got a long, long ways to go in terms of building a very strong, competent foundation relationship, not only with law enforcement, but with other professionals.
Okay, thank you. Okay, back to our question team captain and trustee Adam. Oh, my apologies, Tony. Please,
My number one call on this. You know the Board of Supervisors, you want to say something?
I'm getting all that.
The Board of Supervisors holds the budget for the Sheriff's Department. One of the easiest things is to build relationships and work together. You know, the sheriff's elected by residents, whoever votes throughout Monterey County. But the sheriff has to come before the Board of Supervisors. The sheriff has to come before the Board of Supervisors. Before the Board of Supervisors to get his money. That's where you negotiate. You know, there was a gentleman that called me a family man. He called me, his son had gotten arrested, 17-year-old from Honduras, undocumented. Very scared, but we had to build a relationship in that family. I was very honest with him. I'm going to support you as a parent because I'm a parent and I know you love your son. So we started being that I was doing classes at the jail. I was able to have access to that visit. The scariest thing for the parents, because they had heard of horror stories that they were going to deport undocumented people. Well, guess what? Because of a little bit of negotiation, understanding, not doing anything that was illegal, but we waited patiently. We were there to support him. ICE came through. The young man is working here in Salinas. He stayed with mom and dad. Why? Because it's not true what a lot of people assume. You have to go inside the jail to figure out how it works. And as a board of supervisor, me as your next member of District 1, I'm going to continue going to the jail, you know what, to turn it into a real rehabilitation center. Because a lot of fathers there, what they need, not only direction on how to be a parent, but they also need trades, being able to get CSUMB in there, being able to get Hartnell College in there, being able to get other resources, where these men, instead of just getting out to nothing, they're going to be able to get out to a job.
That's the part. Thank you, sir. Okay, now, Trustee Adam.
Hello? A lot of people who are involved in gang violence get involved with that lifestyle at a very young age. And this is related to a question what one of our audience members wanted to know. What would you do to support and increase the sports and art programs for the youth in the area to help kind of redirect them out of that lifestyle?
Tony, sorry. Next month, there's going to be a teen lounge inside the Firehouse Recreation Center. You know, one of the things that we're doing right now, through partnership with the Big Sur Land Trust, they are getting ready to buy 72 acres of green space, something that we desperately need. And you know that it takes a little bit of time, but one of the things that we have in District 1, we have a dynamic staff of young people working in our parks and recreation. They have hundreds, literally thousands of children. We have 150 soccer coaches that are volunteers, and they're dealing with 3,000 children. You know, I know of 4 instances. There was 4 men that were charged with murder, and guess where they were arrested? They were arrested inside the Monterey County Jail because of other crimes. Think about that. It's the habitual criminals. This young man that today, he was in court, they gave him life in prison for killing 3 innocent people. The next morning, after he killed 3 people, he was arrested on his way to work. He was eating a burrito and getting in his car, not even thinking about it. But today he was sentenced to life. Camacho, who killed the young Asael Cruz, he says Asael, 6-year-old, was a casualty of war. A casualty of war. Pulido, another young man that had his life taken away, he's spending life in prison. And you know, you talk to Camacho and you talk to Pulido, they don't care what they did. A lot of young people out there, they'll kill you if you just disrespect them. Look at them the wrong way. You know what? And we're trying to reach those people. Sometimes we need to get law enforcement and get everything in gear and really put the law into those homes that decide not to be part of our society.
Okay, thanks. Luis?
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank the local press for trying to bring out the stories that are inspiring. Because often we hear about the stabbings and the shootings, but we don't hear about the other side about young people in Salinas and surrounding communities, that there's a lot of amazing young people, and a lot of amazing mentors and coaches that take their time, that volunteer to keep them involved in positive activities, whether it's the Ruben Pizarro, the Dream Academy, that take kids from the east side to visit some of the Ivy League schools, whether it's all those coaches. If you go to any soccer field or any baseball field, all those coaches that volunteer their time to help young people stay involved in those are our community heroes. I also think my community heroes, some of my young people, like my young intern, Gilbert Ramos, and Ernesto Infante, who just got accepted to UC Berkeley last Friday from Salinas. Those are inspiring. But the other side is tragic for many of us. The recent shootings of several 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds, 2 12-year-olds that got hit by bullet fragments, it could have ended in tragedy in their lives as well. No mother, no father should have to worry sending their kids to school and whether they're going to come back safe to our community. But what we can do with evidence and crime analysis data is find out where are the neighborhoods that have the greatest crime, that have the greatest need, and deploy resources where we know they're most needed, whether it's additional after-school rec centers in those neighborhoods, whether it's community gardens to help bring neighbors together, whether it's doing what other cities have done, which is putting temporary community centers with neighborhood staff to get to know the neighborhood leaders, build that trust, and then actually help build a trust with the local police officers that patrol that particular neighborhood. This has all been done elsewhere. It's proven to have worked, but it also means an investment from the cities and counties to invest in those parks and other resources, the streetlights and the businesses within that community. It has to be comprehensive if we want to turn some of these most troubled neighborhoods around to give our families a better life.
Okay, thank you. Fernando?
You know, we don't have to go elsewhere. We don't have to look for models. We don't have to look for research. The talent is here, and it's been proven. There's a few. There's NEPA, there's Building Healthy Communities, the Alisal Center for the Fine Arts. But I'm not going to talk about what I think other people do. I'm going to talk about, you want to know, I've been walking 80 days now, almost 7 days a week. And I let people know what I've done or not done. If I get reelected, what do you want me to do different? I led the charge 4 or 5 years ago, folks, to get 45 more acres to the Constitution soccer field. Not on anybody's terms, on our terms. That we have access, and it's guaranteed in the MOU. And that's why we took a little bit longer, because I said, we're not going to have a deal unless the deal represents a community. Okay? And Rancho Cielo, okay? 14 years ago, was one of the 5 supervisors that gave Rancho Cielo a 90-year lease for $1 a year. Okay? We have not done enough. The counties and cities, to some extent, are isolated from a great many of our school districts right here in Salinas. That's why I led the charge, put my political career on the line, to get new leadership on the Alisal School Board, to get new leadership for those students, to get new leadership for those parents, to get leadership for some of the educators and vice principals that are here today, to turn around school districts. That's how you empower folks and bring back the family resource centers that's been missing in some of these school districts. Thank you.
Okay. All right, now we're ready for Sarah Rubin. Fire away.
I want to shift gears a little bit and ask you about the way the county does business and the question of transparency. One issue is performance evaluations in an effort to be more accountable to the public. The county in recent years has significantly increased the number of performance evaluations they do of top staff. They were sued over having so many closed session performance evaluations again and again and again, week after week. And the county did prevail in that lawsuit, but it was a very narrow decision. In the course of that, the public still did not see a lot of the record of what happened behind closed doors. And a lot of meetings are conducted in private as ad hoc committees pertaining to water issues, pertaining to the medical cannabis ordinance currently under discussion. And I'd like to hear from you on if you think the county is effective in terms of having transparent government right now. What are they doing right? What would you do differently, particularly in ad hoc committee meetings and performance evaluations?
Why don't we start with Luis on that one?
Thank you very much. And just to set the record straight, I've been walking out there and I have never seen Fernando walking out there. On 3 occasions, he's been driving around his truck, yelling things at me, but not walking the precinct, so I haven't seen that at all, and I've been out there a lot. But what I do want to say on transparency, here in California are 2 sunshine laws, the Ralph L. Brown Act that was enacted decades ago, and it was the California Public Records Act, so that the press, the public, can hold their government accountable, keep them transparent, make sure the decisions are being made under the light of sunshine. We can do a better job, and there's been one of the criticisms of the Board of Supervisors. Are they following the law? Are they releasing the documents when you get a Public Record Act request in compliance with the law? But this is something I have personal experience in. I used to litigate when school districts or other local governments did not want to abide by the law. We had to force them to do that. But certainly, as the next Board of Supervisors, my commitment is to enforce these laws and making sure that we're following them very closely so that the public could have faith that we're going to make our decisions in the most transparent way possible. But also, I think in addition to transparency, we need to do a better job in engaging everyday citizens.